Hello, in this video I'll do the problem from the handout from section 8.2, the sampling distribution of sample proportion. And let's talk about the symbols for the variable. Population proportion is lowercase p, sample proportion is lowercase p hat, population size is uppercase N, sample size is N. Okay. For a simple random sample size N with the population proportion P, the shape of the sampling distribution of P hat is approximately normal if these two criteria are satisfied. What's the two criteria? N times P, which is the population proportion, times 1 minus P greater than or equals to 10. A second criteria is N should be less than 0.05 of uppercase N. If these two criteria are satisfied, the sampling distribution of sample proportion is approximately normal. And I should say these two criteria must satisfy for sampling distribution of sample proportion P hat to be normal. Again, P hat is sample proportion. Okay, and then if sampling distribution of sample proportion is normal, that means that looks like this. For example, this is the P hat here. That's what the sampling distribution of sample proportion looks like, which is normal. And this is going to be the mean, and here is going to be mu P hat, which is mean of the sampling distribution of P hat. Okay, and again notice that this line is P hat, this middle value is mean of the sampling distribution of sample proportion, which is mu P hat. And as long as sampling distribution of sample proportion is normal, we use the formula to find the mean of the sampling distribution of P hat, which is mu P hat equals to same as P, which is population proportion, sigma P hat is equals to square root of P 1 minus P divided by N. That's the formula. Okay, and now again there is a formula for P hat as well. P hat is how do you find population proportion, and it's X over N. That's the formula. You know what is N, sample size. X is going to be number of individual with the specific characteristics. I'm going to mention this in the questions later. Okay, all right, and that's the formula we're going to use in this section. But that's how the distribution looks like if sampling distribution of sample proportion is normal. Okay, let's do the question number 1. Based on the study conducted by the Gallup organization, 76% of American, and therefore 76% here represent Americans. That means all American. And I should say 76% is lowercase p, population proportion. Okay, that means as a decimal proportion going to be 0.76. This is the population proportion, because it represents all American, right? You see that, all American. And the 76% believe that state of the moral values in the United States getting worse. Okay, that means 76% believe that moral value getting worse. Suppose we obtain the simple random sample of 60 American. Remember that sample of 60 is here, N equals to, of course, 60 here, right? And determine which believe that the state of the moral value in the United States is getting worse. Describe the sampling distribution of sample proportion for American that believe. Okay, here the question is to describe. As long as the question asks to describe the sampling distribution, you got to do two things. One is verify the criteria, the two criteria we mentioned before, these two criteria. And second thing you got to do is to find this mean and the standard deviation of the sampling distribution of P hat. Therefore, we're going to verify the criteria. What's the first criteria? First criteria is np1 minus p greater than or equals to 10. That's the first criteria. I put the value for n, p1 minus p, and I found this in the calculator. 60 times 1.76 times 1 minus 0.76, I get 10.994. Okay, it's greater than or equals to 10. That's true. That's obviously verified. But the second criteria is lowercase n must be less than 0.05 uppercase n. Here n is the population size, and the population is all American. I put the two. Of course we have bigger than 100,000 American, but I just put 100,000. Okay, it's still gonna be true. But if you put even bigger number than 100,000, this is obviously gonna be true, because as long as you put the bigger number on for uppercase n, your right side gonna be bigger, right? Therefore 60 is always smaller than 5% of uppercase n. Remember that uppercase n is all American, must be more than 100,000, but I first put 100,000 here just to see. Even I put 100,000, it's going to be true. If I put bigger than 100,000, definitely 60 going to be less than 5% of that number. Okay, and that's the two criteria verified. And the second question is to find the mean and the standard deviation. Again, describe means you got to do this thing. If the question says describe, you got to find the you got to verify two criteria. For the sampling distribution of p hat to be approximately normal, and other is to find the mean and the standard deviation. Okay, what's this mean? Mu p hat same as p. We have a formula here, which is 0.76, because that's the p, 0.76. But sigma p hat is p1 minus p divided by n. Everything is square root, and I put the value of n and p and put in the calculator. I get this one. Let me show you how I get this one. Let me see the calculator. In this calculator, I'm going to type, let me see, I'm going to type second square, it's the square root, 0.76 parenthesis 1 minus 0.7 close parenthesis, divided by 60. But notice that I started square root the parenthesis, I have to close it, and that's enter, and I get 0.055. Okay, that's the 3 decimal. It depends on the instruction how many decimal you got to round it, but here I rounded 3 decimal places. Okay, question number 1 is finished. Question number 2. If the population proportion is believed to be 0.55, notice that 0.55 is population proportion. Okay, therefore I should say P is 0.55. How many items must be sampled? Look at the question. How many items must be sampled? That means you are looking for what? Sample size. N is we're looking for, right? How many sample size must be sampled? To ensure the sample distribution of sample proportion to will approximately normal. Okay, that's the question. Did you understand the question? Okay, in this question we got to find lowercase n if you know lowercase p. Okay, now notice that it says how many items must be sampled to ensure, okay, to make sure, right, to ensure that the sample distribution of sample proportion approximately normal. Therefore, remember that the criteria, this first criteria, remember that with n and p, np 1 minus p is greater than or equals to 10, right? This criteria must be satisfied with n and p, right? Therefore, let's put the value of p and solve for n to get n value. Okay, n is, we don't know, p is 0.05, 0.55, 1 minus 0.55 greater than or equals to 10, right? And 0.55, remember that 1 minus 0.55 is 0.45 greater than or equals to 10. And now I multiply this two number, I get n 0.55 times 0.45 gives you 0.2475, okay, greater than or equals to 10. But notice that to solve for n, you divide by 0.2475, 0.2475, and n is greater than or equals to, well, let's cancel. 10 divided by 0.2475 gives you 40.40 approximately. But notice that n must be a whole number, and we see that n must be more than 40.40, 40.40. That means n should be approximately 41, and you got to round up to this number. In other words, if you choose a sample size more than 41, could be 41 or higher, that means 41 or higher sample size is required to ensure sample distribution of sample proportion to be approximately normal, right? Approximately normal, right? At least you need 41. That means it says how many items must be sampled? Must be sampled 41. About 42, 43, 44, that's okay. That means at least 41 must be required for the sampling distribution of sample proportion to be normal. Is that sounds okay? Good. Question number 3. According to the study done by Gallup organization, the proportion of the American who satisfy with their way things are going in their life is 0.82. What is that? 0.82. That's the proportion of population, because the proportion of Americans, think of the Americans, proportion of American, not the sampled American. This is like what? Everybody American. Okay, that means P here is 0.82, and we don't know what is N here, but again N must be more than 100,000, correct? Again, because mentioned in the previous question, that's the N. Remember that most of the time, think about the population, very large population. Okay, does that make sense? This N is big here, isn't big. Okay, describe the sampling distribution of p hat. That's part A. Then here the given is the proportion of the American who are satisfied with the way things are going in life is if the sample size is 200. That means sample size 200 here. That means N equals to 200, right? And first question is, I told you in question number 1, as long as the question actually describe, you got to find two things. One is verify the criteria, and you find the mean and the standard deviation of the sample distribution. Therefore, let's verify the criteria. And even I say here to be sure to verify the model requirement. That means your criteria. What's the first criteria? NP1 minus P greater than or equals to 10. Let's do that. And it's 200. 0.82, 1 minus 0.82 greater than or equals to 10. I put all this value on this inequality, and I'm going to put this everything in the calculator. You guys try. put everything in the calculator. This numbers on the left gives you 29.10, which is greater than or equals to 10, therefore verified. Okay, the first criteria is satisfied. Makes sense? How about the second criteria? Second criteria is the sample size is less than 0.05 of population size. Okay, and this is also verified because this, remember that n is 200, less than 0.05 of n. But again, if you remember the previous question, n is going to be what? 100,000. I just put at least 100,000, but we have more. Even if you put 100,000, you get 5,000 for n, for the right side. Therefore, this is satisfied. This definitely satisfied. Definitely satisfied. Satisfied. Okay. Second criteria, because 5% of uppercase n must be greater than 200. Definitely. Okay. Now you got to find mu p hat. That's the mean of the sample distribution of sample proportion, which is same as phi. We know the formula. The p, which is 0.82, and sigma p hat is going to be square root of what is the formula again? P 1 minus p, let's just say 1 minus p here, divided by n. Okay, I'm going to put the formula. The value p is 0.82, 1 minus 0.82 divided by 200. So everything is square root. And if you put that in the calculator, I just did one for part A. Everything you got to put in the calculator. You did exactly the same way. You get 0.02717. I don't need to find decimal. That's the sigma p hat, and this is the mu p hat, or mean and the standard deviation of the sample distribution. Okay. All right. That's the for A, verify, and this, and find the mean and standard deviation. For B, in the sample obtained in part A, that means 200 sample, what's the probability the proportion who satisfied with things are going in their life exceed 0.85? Remember that we're looking for probability here. I'm looking for uppercase P, and I'm going to put the parenthesis around here. I'm going to put inequality. What we're going to put here is life exceed 0.85. Exceed means what? Greater than 0.85. Okay, but remember that we're looking for the proportion who satisfied in part A. The part A, we have a sample size of 200. Therefore, this here is p hat. Okay, notice that p hat exceed 0.85. That's why we're looking for the probability. Okay, because here we go put p hat, not x, because there is no x here. X is the number of individual. That's the whole number. We don't have it. But you see, proportion who satisfied in part A. Okay, proportion who satisfy in part A is, that means we're looking for sample proportion greater than equals to 0.85 probability. Okay, and again the same idea here. Use the area. Let me draw the picture for this. This picture looks like this. It's mu p hat. Okay, and that's what gonna be. And oh, sorry, this is the p. The line is p hat, and this is mu p hat, which is value is 0.82. Let me write down 0.82 here. Let me just say 0.82, but 86 is here, somewhere here. This is, and I'm looking for this area pretty much. Okay, this area greater than 0.8, oh, 85, not 86. this 85 because we're looking for 0.85 number to the area to right of this number exceed. Okay, that's what I'm looking for pretty much. Okay, again, this is normal CDF as we did before. Normal CDF. Lower bound here is 0.85. Upper bound here is, we don't know, it's 10 to the power 99. The mean here is 0.82. Remember that that's the mean of the sample distribution, 0.82. We're using that, and the standard deviation is going to be 0.02717. That's the standard deviation sample distribution. Okay, that's what I'm going to use. Put in the calculator. Let's see what you get. Let's see. Now, second VRS number 2 number 0.85 comma 10^99 because no upper bound, comma mean is 0.82, comma standard deviation is 0.02717. Okay, you put that is going to be 0.13476. okay, 0.1348, I should say 4 decimal. Okay, 0.134, 0.1348. okay, that's where you get it, 0.1348 because of 6, this 7, 8, rounded to 4 decimal. That's the probability. Okay, all right. Next question: would it be unusual for a survey of 200 Americans to reveal that 75 or fewer? Remember that 75 or fewer means this X value is 75 or fewer. Okay, are satisfied with the way things are going in their life. Okay, you're looking for unusual. Would it be unusual? To check the unusual, you got to look for probability. Look for probability. Is something probability less than 5% or not? And here what are you looking for? Probability of what? Notice that 75 or fewer. 75 or fewer, less than 75. But here we use the number 75 is the whole number. Okay, the number. And that's what's called the individual with given characteristics. Remember the formula? X is number of individual with the given characteristics. That's what it says. Out of 200, 75 are satisfied with their thing are going in their life. That means here you got to put X here. Okay, but I need phi hat here. That means out of 275 people satisfied, and then what's the p hat here? Going to be p hat going to be x over n, since we have the formula on the top here. See, x over n, and I'm going to use this p hat in this place. And for the next line, let me just find the p hat first. X is 75 divided by 200. Remember that x over n, who's going to be 0.375. okay, and that's the same as p hat less than 0.375. okay, watch, my point is this is that's what I'm looking for, but I got to translate this x as a p hat. Therefore I translate this x here as a p hat as 0.375 because I know p hat is x over n. Therefore basically I'm looking for this. I'm looking for probability of p hat less than equals to 0.375 because 0.375 is proportion of this 200 American in the sample. Okay, 75 or fewer, that means pretty much out of 200 is 37.5%. Okay, to find the probability as usual, we use normal CDF, normal CDF, and your less is going to be negative 10 to the power 99, comma 0.375, and the mean gonna be using the mean because you have the same as this mean here for 200 sample, 0.82, comma standard deviation for 200. We had it before, gonna be 0.0222717. Okay, that's what I'm using, and I use the calculator. Is gonna be 0.0000, pretty much 0. Okay, you can try this calculator. Let me just do it for you. Let's do that second. PRS number 2, number 2, negative 10 to the power 9, comma 0.375, comma 0.82, comma 0.02717, close parenthesis, and let's get 0. Okay, that means this is what, less than what, 0.05, and it would be unusual, and it should say yes, it would be unusual. Make sense? Okay, that's the question number 3. Let's do question number 4. Okay, a researcher studying a public opinion on proposed social security changes obtained a simple random sample of 635 adult Americans. He got sample of 35 adult Americans and asked them whether they support the proposed changes. Okay, again, he asked 35, a researcher asked 35, or she asked 35 adult Americans whether they support the proposed changes. To say that the distribution of the sample proportion of adults who responded yes is approximately normal. Okay, to say that the distribution of the sample proportion is approximately normal, how many more adults does the researcher need to be sampled in the following cases? Remember that, how many more? How many more? That means this 35 is not more, I guess, right? Therefore, 35 is not enough. And the question asking, how many more needed to get the sampling distribution of sample proportion is approximately normal? How many more? Therefore, I'm looking for how many do I need, and I take it out 35, then I know how many more I need. Therefore, I'm just trying to find what's the n first. Find how many sample size. Find the sample size. Sample size n. Okay, we've got to find the sample size. Then, because 35 is not enough, and if we know how many I need, and if I subtract 35, I get how many more I need to get sample distribution to be approximately normal. And again, this is pretty much the question number 2. Okay, you're looking for n. That's exactly similar. But here 12% is p. Why? Say all 12% of all adult Americans support the change. That means 12% here is proportion for all American. That means 12% is p hat. P equals 0.12. It makes sense? 0.12. Okay, let's find the n here. Same formula. N p 1 minus p is greater than or equals to 10, because this is the criteria for sampling distribution to be approximately normal. We know that from the top. See, that's must be normal. And the value of n, that's what I don't know, p 0.12, 1 minus 0.12 greater than or equals to 10. Let's do the math here. If you multiply these two numbers, 0.12 and 1 minus 0.12, you get 0.1056 because it goes to 10. Now still divided by 0.1056, 0.1056 is cancelled and is greater than or equals to 94.69. And notice that, as I mentioned before, you always round it up to the nearest whole number because you need the number greater than or equals to 94.96 as a whole. That means n must be approximately equals to 95. Therefore, since 95 is required sample size, but researcher asks 35, okay, that's not enough. Therefore, since 95 sample size is required for what? The sampling distribution of sample proportion to be approximately normal. But researchers only do what? 35. Therefore, how many more we need? 95 minus 35, which gives us 60 more are needed, right? Because 35 is sample plus if you add 60 you get 95. That's what we require, right? That's the question number 4. Okay, that's all about this handout. Thank you for watching. Bye.